On the outside, I looked like I had it together. Successful business, successful real estate portfolio, beautiful family, car, house, everything. But I was dying on the inside. What's up, dude?
Brothers, Yeadon, good to have you here. Brothers, thanks again for joining us today on the next episode of the Porn to Purpose podcast.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. We're your hosts, Matthew Sinkovitz and my esteemed colleague, Yeadon Smith. Yeadon, thanks for joining us here today, brother.
Always good to be behind the microphone with you, Matt, talking about one of my favorite topics.
Yes.
Porn recovery.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brothers, we got a special episode here today. We're gonna be digging in on Yeadon's story coming up here on 900 Days Porn-Free. I guess in the next week or two.
Closing in.
Yeah, we're having a conversation. We figured it would make sense just to jump on and dig in a little bit deeper into Yeadon's story. I know he shares on the podcast a lot, but we feel now was the right time to do it again. So we're going to go ahead and jump in on Yeadon's story. Yeadon, thanks so much for your willingness to share with us here today.
I'm ready to go, bro. I'm ready to go. Beautiful.
Yeadon, would you begin here today by sharing a little bit about who you are and your story? What's brought you here?
So as we're recording this, I'm 44, turning 45 later this year, coming up on 20 years marriage. At the end of the year, we'll have hit the 20-year mark. We have 4 kids, 17, 15, 12, and 10, 3 boys and a girl. And I've had some background about me. I'm on my, I think, 4th career in my life. So I went to college kind of accidentally. Wasn't really planning to go to college, but had a shift, went to college. I got involved in a youth ministry mentorship training apprenticeship program. So my first career was in ministry. I was doing full-time youth ministry for a decade. Was on my way to transition and go to seminary to be ordained and go that route. Realized that's not my calling in life. I worked with a network marketing company then for a bunch of years, helping people lose weight. Then I got into real estate as a realtor, helping people buy and sell houses. Then partnered up with my cousin to do a property management company. We started doing property management. And then that fateful day when he's like, hey, we should buy apartments. And now my 4th career now is full-time commercial real estate investor and coaching people in how to buy apartments and how to get into commercial real estate investing. So wild variation across the past 20 years of my professional business life. And on the outside, when I first found you and Porn to Purpose and heard about the Liberation Boot, on the outside, I had a lot of stuff together. Sizable real estate portfolio, house, 2 cars, actually probably 3 cars because one of my kids was driving, the wife, the family, the house, the cars, even had a yacht, which I do not recommend. Worst business decision my partner and I ever did. Well, one of the top 2 worst decisions we ever made. Don't buy a boat. Have a friend who has a boat. That's the kind of boat you want.
Got it.
On the outside, it's like, oh man, this guy has it going on. This guy has his life together. All the external trappings of success. But on the inside, well, I'll share a story. Kind of the very beginning of my growth journey probably started about 8, 9, maybe 10 years ago when my wife and I went to the grocery store on kind of a lunch date, eating at the little salad bar there. And she started going through this list of things. She's like, hey, does you ever feel like this? I'm like, yes, this, yes, this, yes, 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 this whole list. And she's like, well, these are all symptoms of male clinical depression.
Mm.
I was like, what? No. What was on that list again? Like read me those things again. And I'll never forget. She said it feels like you put on a happy face, but you're dying on the inside.
Mm.
And she hit the nail so hard on the head. That was kind of the start of I started working with the therapist, starting to kind of figure out what was going on the inside. But I still remember in the first couple of meetings with the therapist was like, what about pornography? I was like, oh, no, that's nope, totally good on that. Yeah, no, we don't. Nope, got that sorted. And I just lied straight up. I was terrified of even telling a therapist that I had issues with porn. And being in youth ministry for a decade, I mean, I've shared my story on the podcast and we talk about it, on the podcast that we do periodically, but I found my first magazine when I was 8, and then dial-up internet, and then high-speed internet in college. I was stuck. I was addicted. I was trapped, trying to get away from porn on my own, white knuckling it. Nothing ever worked. And even going to therapy, I was like, well, I'd really kind of given up on that piece of the puzzle. Just figuring it's like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to talk with my therapist about this. I'm here to work on my anger issues, not porn. So then fast forward a couple years, I joined this mastermind, amazing mastermind with Larry Hagner, who hosts the Dad Edge podcast. It's an amazing podcast for husbands and fathers. And I joined his mastermind, the Alliance, the boardroom program that he has. And I was making great strides in being a better husband, better father, better business owner. But in the back of my head, there's still that piece of the puzzle of porn addiction that I just could not escape. No matter what books I read, what blogs I read, what type of information, I'm just like, I cannot get away from this. I know it's wrong. I don't want to, but I don't know what to do. Nothing I've ever tried has worked. So I just gave up. And then in one of the sessions with the Dad Edge, you were our guest speaker. We call them sensei sessions, right? Have an expert come in, talk about a topic. And the topic was how to talk to your kids about porn. And my schedule didn't let me watch it live, participate live, but I watched the recording because I have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. And I'm well aware of the danger. Like, I'm intimately familiar with how insidious the porn addiction is. And with kids, I always knew I need to figure out how to protect my kids from this cesspool that I've fallen into and I can't get out of. So I jumped on that recording, like, oh, how do I talk to my kids about porn? You were talking about this Liberation Boot Camp. And I thought, there's probably something here that I can learn and teach my children. Mm. And honestly, like, that was the catalyst for me. How can I find tools and resources that I can give my sons and my daughter to avoid the pitfalls of porn? Because now, when I was growing up, didn't have cell phones. It was you had to know where a magazine was or know where a VHS tape was. And then in college, it was high-speed internet, LimeWire, BearShare, downloading stuff like that. Still didn't have smartphones when I was in college. But now my kids are walking around with access. Well, they don't have access because their phones are pretty. I've tested their phones. You can't get around the framework on the family safety system that Google has for Android. Yeah. Yeah. I've tried. I've tested it to see if my tricks work, and they don't. But at some point, my son's going to be 25. He's not going to be on the family phone plan. He's not going to have restricted access. He's going to have unlimited access. And he's going to have the entire anthology of pornography in his pocket 24/7. And I was desperate to figure out to have some sort of plan. The only plan I had was like, well, maybe if they just don't get exposed to pornography long enough, their brain will have developed enough that they won't get trapped in it like I was. Honestly, that was my plan.
Yep.
You know, we just watched I took my kids. We went to see the Formula One movie a couple weeks ago. It's 2025 as we're recording this. It's July. So we saw the Formula One movie a couple weeks ago. And in one of their planning sessions, the main character says, hope is not a battle plan.
Yeah.
And as I look back, that was my plan. Just hope.
Yeah.
I was taking the hopium and figuring, well, I'm doing the best I can, the best I know how to do. When you were talking about the Liberation Boot Camp, I thought, okay, there must be some sort of tool and resource in here that I can learn, that I can pass on to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot. There's the 4-rack formula, 2x2, the core 4. There's a lot of tools that are taught that I learned and I incorporated in my life from the boot camp. But honestly, when I joined because the only battle plan I had for my kids was hope, and I knew that was not going to work.
Yep.
I knew it wasn't going to work. So that's kind of my story up until when jumped into the Liberation Boot Camp with you, that phone call, that Zoom call that we had a couple years ago, where it's like, hey, bro, don't give me the sales pitch. Just sign me up.
Yes.
Right. It's like, I've already decided I'm going to do this. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But I'm going to do it and find something that I can share with my kids.
Yep.
So on the outside, I looked like I had it together. Successful business, successful real estate portfolio, beautiful family, car, house, everything.
Yeah.
But I was dying on the inside.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so you came through the program a couple of years ago. Obviously stuck around. Obviously, one thing led to another and led to a partnership between the two of us. And as of today, coming up on, I think, 1,000 days porn-free, something like that, correct?
Let me see. I'll check in my my I Am Sober tracking app. 890 days.
Wow. Oh, coming up on your 900. That's right.
Yeah. So I'll hit 900 this month.
Yeah. Beautiful, brother. And a beautiful example to the community, and a beautiful example of what's available to men who show up and apply themselves at the level that you have. Yeah, man. So Yeadon, like, what would you say? I love the bold step that you took in joining the program, and typically, like, one of the conversations I have with a man whenever he chooses to join the program is like, brother, I want to take a moment and acknowledge the choice that you just made for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're anything like me, like, we can struggle with this for decades, oftentimes on our own, right?
Yes.
And thinking we can handle it on our own, and making that choice to get help and start getting visible around this and begin being seen by others is a big piece, and it's a big marker in one's journey. Like, what were some of the reservations that you had in maybe choosing to get help? Like, what took you so long?
You know, the reservations that I had about finding help really had to do with the internal conversation that I had around pornography. So I was raised in the church, you know, been going to church my whole life. I was in full-time youth ministry for a decade. And unfortunately, the only language I had around porn made it such a dangerous topic to bring up in conversation.
Yeah.
Right? You can't really bring up at your Thursday morning Bible study with your men's group. It's like, hey guys, I'm a porn addict.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody just kind of pushes their chair back and like, what are you doing, man? You just need to stop.
Yeah.
Stop. You don't have to do anything. You just have to avoid doing. You just have to not do something. And I've tried not doing something for decades, and it never worked. I would pray. I would memorize Bible verses. I would, quote verses back to me that were supposed to be helpful in fighting the temptation, because the only language I had around porn was sin, immoral, evil, temptation. I'm not strong enough. I need to pray more. And I never had a safe place to talk about it without fear of being judged and ostracized from the group. Because in Christianity, for better or worse, I mean, the way I was raised in the organizations, in the churches I was a part, right? Sexual sin. I mean, I know Christians are like, Christianity says, hey, all sin is the same. But let's be real. Let's be real. If you have an explosive moment of anger with your kids versus cheating on your wife, those are not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't treat them the same thing.
Right.
And sexual sin is kind of a higher tier sin than just being unkind. Right? Or being chronically late. Right? Or pride, or, gluttony, eating too much at the buffet. It's like we categorize, the system categorizes sin. They have different weights to them. And this particular one felt so dangerous to me that it didn't feel safe to bring it anywhere.
Yeah.
Which only pushed me more into the shame, more into the darkness. So there were a couple of moments, right? I remember a Bible study, small group that my wife and I were part of for a couple years with a friend group from church. And one time we had, the guys went upstairs, all the women stayed downstairs, and we were talking about porn a little bit. And of course, we all acknowledged, like, yeah, porn, not good, sin, we need to avoid it. But those are the only tools I ever heard of. Yeah. Just avoid, stay away from it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you categorically, those tools did not work for me.
Yeah.
So where am I going to go? The tools that I got from the system, they're either broken or I don't know how to use them, and I'm not good enough to actually follow the plan.
Yeah.
So I felt broken on the inside to where, gosh, I've tried everything. Nothing's worked. There is just something wrong with me. I'm a monster. I'm a pervert. I'm a deviant. I'm a sex addict. I'm a porn addict. And the only thing I'm trying to do at that point is manage the addiction and hide it and keep it covered so well that it doesn't explode in my face and destroy my life like a house of cards. So all those hesitations for decades.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it was helpful, honestly, where the shift wasn't for me. Because it's like, okay, I'm just giving up on myself. Right. But I can find something and pass it on to my kids that maybe will give them more internal fortitude to avoid the porn and just, avoid it in their life and not fall into it like I have.
Yeah.
And so when I heard about how to talk to kids about porn, I was like, I'm in. I want to learn. I want to learn how to talk to my kids about porn. I want to give them tools and resources that I didn't have growing up.
Yeah.
And how to navigate a world that is filled with endless pornography.
Yeah. Beautiful, brother. You speak to so many of the common problems and dilemmas I think that a lot of men, I know I can relate to, encounter when considering or looking at the potential of getting help around this. And also, I hear you speaking to, like, it was almost as though there had to be a reason greater than yourself, or a reason beyond
Yeah.
yourself, to want to begin to get to
Yes.
support. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that speaks kind of like to porn to purpose, and speaks to, I think, why this work resonates with so many fathers and husbands. Like, I need to do this. I need to break this generational kind of pattern here,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I got to give something better to my kids. Um, on the conversation of tools, Yeadon, like, what were some of the things that you learned, what were some of the ways in which you grew as a result of the work?
So I would say, I mean, that's kind of a tough question, but it's also a very easy question. The easiest thing I can pinpoint is the paradigm shift for how I think about porn addiction,
Mm-hmm.
how I think about consuming pornography.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only words I had to talk about consuming porn were sin, immoral, evil. It's like, this is just an evil activity, and you're a terrible person if you do it. But in the boot camp, we don't talk about porn as a sin. Now, let me be clear. I don't have anything good to say about porn. I do think it's bad. I think it's evil. I think it's wrong on a, it destroys people's lives, both the consumer and producers of it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't have anything good to say about it. But the language I had, the vocabulary I had around it was not conducive for recovery.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me was really understanding that my porn addiction, thinking about my porn addiction as a coping mechanism rather than sinful activity.
Mm.
Because once that paradigm really shifted, now I don't have to wear the label of monster, pervert, deviant, predator, it's like all those negative labels I was able to take off. Is like, oh, this is a coping mechanism for how I cope with the emotional pain of life, the mental pressure, the stress,
Yeah.
the pain. This is my go-to for getting that temporary relief. Just like I remember growing up, one of my first jobs was at Arby's. And if you've never worked fast food, I recommend everybody work fast food, at least for some portion of their life, just so you can understand what it's like on the other side of the counter. We'd been slammed that day, slammed. And I remember the manager at the end of that mad rush, she was like, oh my God, I need a cigarette. She quit smoking 20 years ago, but she went outside and smoked a cigarette. Because smoking, the nicotine and the rush, like, it's a coping mechanism. It's like you're stressed out, take a couple drags on a cigarette, get that nicotine flowing through your system. Like, oh, your body just chills out. And for me, it was porn. It's like, I'm stressed out, I'm irritated, I'm agitated, I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious, I'm afraid, I'm nervous. Porn was my cigarette.
Yeah.
Take a hit of the porn site, and like, okay, my life is not going to crush me like a wrecking ball in this moment.
Right.
And once I figured that out, then all of the tools made sense from Liberation Bootcamp. The 0-day doc that we go through when you have a relapse. It's like, oh, what was actually going on? What was my energy? What were my emotions? What was my mental state? What was going on leading up to the porn use? The 4-rack formula of remembering the pain, reflecting on paradise, refocusing on what you want. I know I'm going to screw these up, but taking action, choosing a different action, reflecting on
Right.
what do I actually need right now?
Mm-hmm.
That tool. And these tools all combined with the skill of awareness. by going through the curriculum, by doing the writing exercises, by writing things in my journal, doing some, pretty basic meditation exercises, getting to the point where I could pause and just try and figure out what's actually going on. It's like, oh, I'm feeling the pull. I'm feeling my inner addict talk to me. It's like, hey, man, all we got to do is go type in the website. We can get a hit, easy peasy. It's like, oh, what's actually going on here?
Mm-hmm.
What's really going on the inside? I'm frustrated because my daughter threw a fit that she's not going to clean her room.
Yep.
And is writhing around on the floor because she's so upset. And I'm just really irritated because picking up your room, like, you don't want to pick up your toys? Fine. I'll pick up your toys.
Yeah.
I got this giant yard trash bag that I'm going to keep your toys in and put them in the garage. Realizing that, oh, I'm really upset about this. And the coping mechanism that I've used my whole life is porn. That's my natural inclination to go there, but I know that's not healthy.
Yeah.
What can I do instead?
Mm-hmm.
Really building the skill of being aware of what's going on inside that drives me to the porn. Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with like filters or accountability because I've had all that stuff and I can get around it.
Yeah.
It really had to do with building that awareness so that I could use the tools that I learned in the boot camp, like the 4-rack formula, when I'm hit with the pull to go use porn.
Yep. Beautiful, man. You touched on a lot of great stuff there. Specifically for me is like the awareness that when I experience the urge to use porn, or when you experience the urge to use porn, it's more than just a sexual need or a sexual desire. It's like there's a deeper need that's desiring to be met, or there's something emotionally that's going on for me. And part of this work I found is like cultivating emotional awareness, right? And the capacity to be more present with our emotions and learn to meet our emotions and meet ourselves in healthy ways.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah, you spoke to all that very well. Yeah, we've got a tenet in the Noble Code that says, I always do my best. How I do anything is how I do everything. And we often talk about the cascading impact of making this change in our life, and like how it affects the different aspects of our lives and the people in our lives. Like, how have you changed, and how and in what ways has this impacted your life and those in your life?
That is such a powerful tenet of the Noble Code. And I find it interesting that stuck inside the addiction, I compartmentalized myself. Where it's like, I'm a solid guy. I'm doing the best I can to be a good husband, a good father, a good man. And I'm just going to take this porn addiction and just stick it over here in the closet and try and keep it locked up most of the time. And when it breaks out of the closet, I'm just going to try and make sure that happens when there's no collateral damage, as it were. Right? And what I've found is I was doing the same thing in most areas of my life. I would be calm and cool and collected interacting with my kids until one day I'd blow up, lose my cool, lose my temper. And I would be good in my relationship with my wife, but all the little dings and, all the little emotional punches that you have in a long-term relationship, just the friction of it's like, there's telling me I loaded the dishwasher wrong again. Right? I didn't know you could load a dishwasher wrong until I got married. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. Right? All these things that they're just like little emotional jabs that happen over the course of life. And I would be okay until suddenly I wasn't. just like with my porn addiction. I'd be okay, be like white knuckling it, like, oh, I'm not gonna use porn today. Until suddenly I wasn't okay and I couldn't stop. I couldn't keep the door shut. I couldn't keep the door shut on my emotions with my kids. I couldn't keep the door shut on my emotions with my wife. I would freeze up in business, procrastinate, and just avoid things that I didn't want to face. Now that I've understood really what the porn addiction is all about, I've been able to take those same tools and apply it to every area of my life. When my son is throwing a fit because I'm not going to give him more time on the computer, I'm able to interact in a strong, peaceful manner. Like, what's really going on here? It's like, well, I have a teenager who's upset that he doesn't get to do what he wants to do. That's a perfectly natural response to be upset that you don't get to do what you really were looking forward to do.
Yep.
You feel it's unreasonable. You feel it's unfair. That's a natural response. And being able to be aware of what's going on inside me and what's going on in my family, be like, oh, this is not an explosive worthy conversation. My conversations with my kids have improved 1,000-fold. Like on Father's Day, we were doing the like, hey, what have you noticed about dad? And my 12-year-old son, who's like, dad used to explode, but now he's like a rock, as he's patting me on the shoulder. He's like a rock, very stable, very solid. So the skills that I learned from the boot camp that I practice on a daily basis for my recovery from the addiction, I also get to practice on a daily basis in my relationships with my family, in how I approach my business. Now, I'm not going to say I hit it out of the park every time. There's still some things in business like, I don't want to deal with this today. I'll deal with it on Friday, right? There's still things like that. But there's been a categoric shift in my life based on what I've learned from the Liberation Bootcamp. It applies to business, to partnerships, to working with investors, to working with, my connection with my wife, my connection with my kids, my connection with my siblings, with my parents. At every level, the skill set and the recovery from porn has only elevated every other part of my life.
Well, that sounds like it's worth the price of admission.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I remember reading an article a couple weeks ago. Warren Buffett was talking about one of the only investments you can make where you will never lose money. I was like, okay, what you got, Buffett?
Yeah.
We talking Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, right? What kind of investment are you talking about? He said, it's investing in yourself.
Yep.
Investing in yourself will never come back at a loss.
Yep.
And the investment I made in myself to join the boot camp, to continue with the journey, to join the Noble Council, my life has changed so dramatically in the past 2.5 years. And I love it. I love the freedom that I have now. I love the stability, the peace that I have in every like one of the other tenets of the Noble Code is nothing to hide, nothing to prove. And it really is true. I'm at the point where I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anything to prove. And I remember a real estate conference I went to probably 2 years ago. This guy, amazing real estate operator named Chris Rude. He was talking from the stage, talking about, one of the ways, like how he's successful. He does a lot of mobile home park stuff. He was talking about his relationship with his wife. He's talking about how They don't have any secrets in their relationship. And then he like grabbed the mic. He's like, and I'm not talking, I'm talking like no secrets, guys. No. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. Because I'm sitting there, it's like, oh crap, I have a secret that I'm hiding from my wife. But I don't know what to do with it. So there was always this piece that was stuck in the past. But now that it's not there, now that I've identified that and it's with me and I know what's going on, now I really have freedom to move forward through life with purpose and intention and strength instead of moving through life with fear and reaction and timidity.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite ones. Nothing to hide, nothing to prove.
Beautiful, brother. Yeadon, thanks so much for sharing your journey, your experience, your testimony with us here today, brother. What would you say to a man who's maybe considering this work, considering jumping in on the boot camp? Maybe he's on the fence on the conversation. What would you offer him?
Oh, man. I mean, part of me wants to just reach out, grab him and say, what are you waiting for? But I also know that would not have worked with me.
Yeah.
3-4 years ago. It's like, dude, if you're watching this, there's hope. There's real freedom from this. You're not the monster that the voice says that you are. You're doing the best that you can. But I'm telling you, like, my best wasn't good enough. Honestly, my best was not good enough. I couldn't do it. So if you're on the fence, man, what do you got to lose? Money? You can make more money. That's the only downside. You jump in, you don't actually do the work, and you remember you went through the boot camp, but you didn't do the work, and it's like, well, there's another thing that didn't work. You're already there right now, bro. The boot camp goes deep in a way that nothing I ever saw before did. And your life, your future, your freedom is worth the investment, brother. If you have kids, your kids are worth the investment. If you're married, your marriage is worth the investment. Get off the fence. The water is fine. Come on in. The water is fine. There we go. Thumbs up from the camera.
Beautiful, Yeadon. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Honored to know you, honored to have you as a member of the community, and honored to hear the most recent iteration of your journey, brother. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here, man. I love sharing my story because we say shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces.
Yes, sir.
I hope that story serves.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for your honesty, your openness, your vulnerability, and your example, brother. Your example not only to myself, to the community, but to your family, man.
Well, nothing to hide, nothing to prove anymore.
Amen. 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 Brothers, thanks so much for joining us here today for this special conversation. If you've resonated with the conversation here today, if you've resonated with Yeadon's story, maybe you're finding yourself in a similar position or a similar experience, we want to invite you to head on over to www.pørn-free.com, where we've got all kind of information on the Liberation Boot Camp and what we've got going on inside the Porn to Purpose community. We'd love to invite you to check it out. We'd love to invite you to a conversation with either Yeadon or myself, see where you're at in your journey, and explore if what we've got going on might be a good fit for you. Head on over to pørn-free.com, and we'll look forward to connecting with you over there.
Yeah, brother. In the meantime, thank you for listening. As always, if you would give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really does help spread this message of hope farther, because men are dying out there. stuck and hopeless. Love you, brother.
Love you, brother. Brothers, thanks so much for joining us here today. Wherever you are in the world, peace, power.
We're noble
We're
men.
noble men. Bye-bye.